Warren Buffett is sure to be asked about that tomorrow at the annual Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting out in Omaha. Another hot topic, Coca Cola and its lavish executive pay plan. As Coke's largest shareholder, Buffett recently abstained when it came time to vote on that pricey plan. But since then, he's come out saying he didn't like it. The person at the center of all this is David Winters, a longtime shareholder of both Berkshire and Coke. And Susie Gharib caught up with him earlier today at the site of Saturday's big meeting.
David, from what we're hearing now, it looks like Warren Buffett is trying to convince Coca Cola's board to revise its whole compensation plan. You've had a lot to do with all of this. Are you satisfied? I mean, what more do you need to hear from Buffett tomorrow?
I think there's a long way to go on Coca Cola because there's been no further information. There have been some rumblings, but there's been nothing tangible. The plan is now widely accepted as being excessive and bad. And I think there's some real governance issues at Coca Cola for the way they've behaved.
You know, as you know, very few people dare to criticize Warren Buffett, and yet you've been calling him out publicly on this very controversial issue. Have you heard from him?
Well, you know, there's been sort of, a vague conversation.
But you haven't talked to him directly?
No.
But if you were to speak with him directly, what would you say?
Well, basically what gives. You know, look, I believe the gospel of Berkshire Hathaway. You know, I grew up with this. And then, really, unfortunately, when it's happened at Coca Cola, I think Warren has tried, and I think he will try more. But there's more work to do. And, I think his heart and his wallet and his mind are in the right place.
So you've been a long-time Berkshire shareholder, and Berkshire stock over the past couple of years has not been doing as well as the broader market. How do you feel about that?
Well, look, Berkshire Hathaway has been an amazing success story, great American success story. But the problem is it's enormous now. And that the returns in the future, or even in the immediate past, cannot be as good, just mathematically, Susie, as they have been, going back 20, 30 years.
David, were you surprised when you heard that Buffett advised his wife to put most of her money in an S&P index fund? How did you feel about that? Is that good advice?
Well, I think really what it is it's an acknowledgement, a public acknowledgement, which is the right way to do it, and, I think very open on Buffett's part, that the returns in the future can't be as good as just being an index investor. And so I think that, unfortunately, the past is not necessarily a prologue, and it's probably very good advice to his wife.
I'd like to get your thoughts on news today that Berkshire is paying $3 billion for a Canadian energy company that's small. Berkshire has something like $50 billion in cash. What do you think of this deal? Will it make a difference for Berkshire? And what do you want Buffett to do with all that money?
It's smart. They're putting money to work at a decent return. Cash comes in every day, and they're building out the utility sector. All that money, it's a challenge. It's a beautiful challenge. But putting $50 billion growing every day to work, I think, look, he's got a great record of doing things intelligently with capital. But it again comes back down to that this enormous weight of cash and lower returns makes the future returns lower, Susie.
David, the one issue that always hangs over these meetings is succession. After all, Buffett is almost 84. As an investor, does it trouble you that Buffett has not named who's going to be the next CEO?
Well, I think in a lot of ways he's been very smart not to name the next CEO, because who it would have been 3 years ago is not who it is today. But ultimately, this is going to be an issue. And this is such an enormous, complicated company of who's going to run it. Is it going to be a committee? We already know, and he's flagged, that the returns are going to be lower. And whoever sits in that seat, it's going to be a tough job, because you're going to be endlessly compared to a fellow who's done better than anybody else in the history of commerce.